Welcome, everybody. This is episode 15 of Swing State Update. I am your co-host, Austin Smith, with the great
Tyler Boyer's here.
Tyler Boyer.
We're here together.
Generational Arizonans. We have a really fun episode keyed up for you guys with two exceptional guests that I really get to work with every single day that I admire. Brett Galacheski, our man in the Midwest, our Midwest guy. Brett's joining us again this week. And then we also have Courtney Cothran from down in Georgia, the three most important states to winning back the White House: Arizona, Wisconsin, Georgia. We've got everybody represented this week for episode 15 and some really interesting topics to talk about.
Well, you just got back from hunting, right?
I did just get back from elk hunting. I was gone last week.
How'd it turn out?
It was good. I shot at a bull, and it was a bad shot. He took off. I couldn't find him. And then the next day, my dad got one, and this is all just meat hunting. I mean,
yeah.
And I love elk hunting in Arizona. If you've never been, it's probably the best type of hunting in Arizona. That's just my opinion. Arizona has like 5 of the world record largest bull elk ever killed, and they're in Arizona. 3 of 5 of like the 6 or 7 world records are out of Arizona. We just have some monsters that live up on the Mogollon Rim. Probably the prettiest place in Arizona, in my opinion, but it's always fun to go elk hunting. It'd been 8 years since I got drawn, and I finally got to go back, and my dad got one, so we'll be eating good for the next year or so, 2 years, like 250 pounds of elk meat. That's a lot of meat.
That's a lot of meat. That's a lot of jerky.
We'll have some on the show in a few weeks. When
some
it's
jerky?
We'll have some of that and some elk summer sausage.
How long does it take to get the jerky done?
Well, we were told, so shout out to Miller's Processing in Santan Valley, where Tyler's from, way out in the East Valley.
Well, I'm not from Santan Valley.
But you're close
I'm from
enough.
Maricopa County side.
You're closer.
The East Valley, okay.
You're closer than I am, okay? And they do a great job with processing. I've taken cattle there, I've taken pigs there that I've grown, and our elk meat. They do a great job. But this is how bad the economy is right now, because people are going hunting more often to get their own meat because it's so expensive to buy it at the store. Oh, yeah. That's why we got to beat Joe Biden. I want more people to go elk hunting. But
you didn't answer my question. How long does it take to get the jerky part?
5 weeks.
5 weeks for jerky?
5 to 6 weeks, I said.
For everything?
For everything.
Oh, for sausage and jerky?
For sausage, for meat, for all of that stuff.
Jerky. I just wanted the elk jerky.
Yeah. Well, you're going to try some of the elk sausage. And then when...
Oh, I've had elk sausage.
And then when... actually, because we've got Brett and Courtney coming out here next week for training. I won't have any by then, but when Brett comes back out, or Courtney and whoever else, we'll get them some elk meat. Because I know in Wisconsin they just eat cheese and drink beer, but that's about it.
They've got little baby deer up there. They got Bambis up there. We got big, grotesque elk.
We have massive monsters like
we have dinosaur elk.
Dinosaur elk, humongous that weigh 1,000 pounds. Anyway,
well,
Brett, welcome back.
Welcome, guys. And we were supposed to have Courtney on last week. Had some technical difficulties, so we're excited to have her on this week because we need to talk Georgia. Lots of things happening in Georgia, so big week.
We do, and we're going to talk some Wisconsin too. Some really weird stuff with their governor up there. Using an alias for an email address. It's quite interesting because we've kind of got the same thing in Arizona, I think, but this is what was just reported by AP this week. Report says Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers used alternate email under the name of a Hall of Fame pitcher. So he was using warren.span@wisconsin.gov. Is that a Wisconsin Hall of Famer, Brett?
Yeah, this is really bizarre. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. If this was in a movie script about the ultimate downfall of the Democratic Party in Wisconsin, this would have gotten tossed because it's just crazy out of left field, no pun intended. But yeah, Warren Spahn was a pitcher in the 1950s and 60s for the Milwaukee Braves, who ultimately moved to Atlanta in the mid-60s. And it's not like Warren Spahn is a common name, by any stretch of the imagination. And at least in Wisconsin, being the Hall of Fame pitcher on Milwaukee's only World Series team that we've ever had, this is kind of out of left field for sure. It's odd, to say the least. It really epitomizes the IQ level of our state's top official.
So the governor is saying, and his staff, it's a security measure that they can't do it. Obviously, Wisconsin has like public records law like any other state normally does. There was a case here in Arizona just recently before I got elected that was like open meeting law actually doesn't apply to the legislature. So like it means like if you're on a committee or you're the governor, you can't be like in a closed door meeting without X amount of people there that are actually supposed to represent the organization. So like if Tyler and I were on like the elections committee together and there's 4 other people, only 5 of us could meet together privately. There couldn't be a whole like quorum together. So this is kind of what they're saying is that, oh no, that actually doesn't apply to the governors. We actually just need him to use an alias to protect himself. What do you think, Brett?
Well, and to be clear, like this isn't a secret Gmail account or anything like that. Like this is a tax-funded official Wisconsin.gov email address. This is warren.spawn@wisconsin.gov. And this wasn't something that he used on a very niche issue or, something that he barely used. He sent 117,000 emails off this email address.
That's crazy.
In a 5-year span using the name of an MLB Hall of Famer that died 20 years ago.
So I think they said that Scott Walker used it too when he was governor, right?
Yeah, they did. But I mean, think about what the state has gone through since 2018.
Right.
COVID, the 2020 election, and the problems that we know, Wisconsin had during that time. The riots in Kenosha, the removal and reinstallment of the Wisconsin's elections commissioner, Megan Wolf, recent legislative actions regarding ranked choice voting. I mean, the list goes on. And he sent 117,000 emails, during that 5-year span. The question becomes, what was he hiding?
What is it with these Democrats and email accounts? Hillary, Evers, Joe Biden, Mitt Romney had an alias on Twitter, didn't he? Pierre Delicto.
Yeah, this feels very Pierre Delicto. It feels very Pierre Delicto.
Like he probably has a Twitter account out there just trying to troll people like the governor of Wisconsin is doing that, not actually working. Then
the question becomes, who had access to this email, or at least who knew that was the best way to get a hold of the governor for ultra secret conversations? I mean, that's the mind-boggling part.
Yeah.
I mean, we've always known that Tony Evers isn't somebody who embraces the ideals and principles that, our country was founded on, but this takes it to a whole new level.
Wait, so what was Scott Walker's alias?
Kevin Scott.
It's so boring.
Who's Kevin Scott? Is he a MLB player too?
Is that the name of the guy from The Office? Is that the name of the character?
No,
that's Michael Scott.
But he may have got inspiration from him. I don't know.
Wait, why? So
Kevin Scott is the chief technology officer of Microsoft.
That's creepy.
See, but Kevin Scott's a normal name. I feel like that can hide under the radar.
Warren, because Scott Walker was just a normal dude.
Is Scott Walker's middle name Kevin?
I don't know. But I mean, like, this sticks out like a sore thumb. I'm trying to put myself in the mindset of a Capitol staffer. If I got
Kevin Walker.
I'm right.
You are.
Look at that. I decoded that. I could be a Navajo code talker. I could be breaking down codes, creating codes. Okay, so Scott Walker is a little less weird. Because I mean, people have aliases all the time in big organizations. They'll do like an abbreviation of their name, or just like the first initial of their name, a middle name. Scott Walker's is more like that. Scott Walker's is his name flipped.
Yeah.
So like people knew like, okay, this is his personal email that he uses to communicate, and the rest is like.
I need to find out now if
it's a little weird to have a name that's not your actual name, like that's like more like a fanboy fangirl name. It's kind of embarrassing.
Yeah.
I think to me is like, it's totally fine to have a government account that's a separate one. That's like I have my. Charlie has this, right?
Yeah.
Charlie has emails like at Turning Point where this is like the Charlie at tpusa.com,
like freedom at charliekirk.com.
90 billion people, and freedom at charliekirk.com that he uses for his radio show. And then he has emails. I guess I could say it over the radio. That'll make this popular, right? Like more people will follow the insight. No, I'm just kidding. But he has his like own personal emails, right? Like, and that's totally normal. I'll tell Rana's at the RNC is RRM at GOP.com or whatever it is, right? Like that's Rana's. So like that makes sense though, right? That's like kind of like the Kevin Scott thing, Kevin Walker, right? This is weird. This is just like, I'm a fanboy of something. I want to be known. This almost feels like trans.
Yeah.
Like he's being a trans MLB player, right? Is that what?
Cosplay.
He's cosplay. This is cosplay. This is Evers cosplay. And by the way, the guy that used to own this building that's right here that we're operating out of, it's actually the building right behind us. His brother, I think, had had Tony Evers as like a teacher because he's a teacher
Oh
in
wow.
Wisconsin.
Yeah, he was our state superintendent before he was governor.
No, but he was like a teacher too.
Yeah,
Like,
way
so-
back. Right.
So like
right.
I guess like his like brother or something, he's an older guy,
Mm.
had him as a teacher or something.
That's
so like
weird.
known him forever. But this is what happens when you get weirdo teachers, and like that weird teacher. I had some cool teachers.
Had some great teachers.
What did he teach in school?
I actually don't know. I mean, he came from an education background. Yeah, it's kind of weird when you think like this guy actually, the parents trusted this guy with their children.
Yeah.
And going back to the fangirling part, I mean, that would be like me using Brett Favre at Wisconsin.gov. Like it's not something that flies under
Brett
the
Favre
radar.
cosplay.
Yeah,
Brett
Brett Favre.
That would be weird. I don't suggest you do that. I think you should just like if you're big enough to become governor, maybe like you should just like stick with your own name. I don't know.
Well, the question becomes, and maybe Tyler, you could shed more light on this. Like, to what extent, or should I say, like, who would have access to these alias emails? Like, is it safe to say that if you're not on like the A list in the minds of the Evers administration, that a response from the governor wouldn't see the light of day unless you use that email?
Yeah, I think so. I mean that's kind of what the idea is, right? I think it's less of like this is more of his private email.
Yeah.
It's more of his private email only he has access to versus like his whole staff. I don't know if that's the case with this one, but typical MO is like,
Yeah,
and
there's
it
a
might be
staff
in this
email.
case where it's only like him and his chief of staff have access to that email.
Right.
And then like the Tony.Evers at, Wisconsin.gov or whatever, or wi.state.gov or whatever it is like his whole staff has that.
Yeah.
And so they'll send out communications from him, to like his entire staff, or the chief of staff will use that one. And really it's the chief of staff that is like becomes Tony, right?
Right.
And then, this one, which is like, cosplay, his
yeah.
cosplay version is like, then people know like that this is like he's seeing it. It's like basically putting it on his desk, right?
Yeah.
He might not respond. People might find out. I'm sure like it sounds like he's pretty prolifically using this.
170 something thousand emails, so that's quite a bit.
So like with like Rana's, for example, rrm@gop.com, like if you wanted to send her an email, like she's going to have access to that one and she's going to see that one, right? But like Rana.McDaniel.
Rana needs to stop sending me awards. I can't take any more of those awards that the RNC's giving
Well,
out. I get them like
those ones.
I get them all
Those
the time.
are not from RRM, right?
Yeah.
Those are not from RRM.
She keeps sending me that I keep winning awards from the RNC, and I haven't taken up any. I think I've won like 40 awards from the RNC.
I wore them all last meeting. I wore them. I put them on. I printed them out. We laminated them. Yeah, the girls laminated them.
Yeah.
Who was that? Brooke or was that Autumn?
That was me.
Yeah, Brooke laminated them, and we put a pin on them, and I wore them on my lapel. I didn't have enough lapel space.
I know. We win awards every single day from the RNC.
Yeah.
Every day.
Golden Elephant. No,
Golden
if you
Elephant.
don't give her $5, you lose the Golden Elephant.
That's true.
They'll have to
That's
give it to
true.
someone else.
They want to know why I haven't responded too.
Anyways, we're off topic here, but yeah, this is really interesting. I don't think it's like that big of a deal outside of it just is more evidence that he's a weird dude.
Cosplay.
And I wouldn't be surprised if Katie Hobbs's isn't like something like Ellen DeGeneres at AZ.
Oh, I believe it too. Oh yeah, 100%. She's
Or
such a weird person.
Yeah, and she's mean like Ellen.
Oh yeah.
So
she's not a very nice.
She's
person.
kind of like Ellen.
Such a nasty woman.
Yeah, racist.
Yeah, very racist.
So, all right. Well, that's interesting. How are things looking on the front, Brett, with on the elections?
Yeah, things are starting to heat up.
Division.
Senate candidates are starting to throw their hat in the ring to go up against our Democratic incumbent, Tammy Baldwin. Obviously, once the Iowa caucuses happen, a lot of the presidential candidates are going to start focusing on Wisconsin. We're going to start to see all of them here, knowing that the weight that areas like Milwaukee and Madison and Green Bay will have going into next year. Our activists are on the ground laying the groundwork for what needs to happen next year. as goes Wisconsin, as goes the nation. So we're really excited to see what kind of impact we can make on things going into next November.
And you guys have a fairly early presidential primary. It's in April, I believe, April 2nd.
Yep, first week of April, that first Tuesday. Yep, and then our fall primary is August 13th.
Yeah,
so
it's the same as Arizona.
Yep.
I actually have some really interesting Wisconsin graphics to throw up that our team has pulled together on the data. I'm going to send these. Sadie, we should throw these up real quick if we can. They're just graphics. Hang on one second here. These are really interesting. Hang on here.
There we go. He got it up.
So this is the first one. I don't know if we can enlarge this as big as we possibly can go. We've actually broken down. So if you know the congressional districts that are in Wisconsin, we've actually broken down the most important precincts that exist and which congressional districts have the most important precincts in them. And so I don't know, Brett, if you're aware of this. We haven't even sent this out to staff yet, but we're gearing up to. We have the three most important congressional districts right now in Wisconsin with the number of votes that are out there for Republicans to go get are CD5, CD4, and CD1. And then really close behind that is CD8 and CD6. So I don't know if that's interesting at all to you. I actually have the county version of this as well. So when you brought this up, let me see if I can forward this real quick to the team, and we can throw this one up. But
and I can shed light on those congressional districts. So the 5th congressional district would be all of Waukesha County, which has always been viewed as the conservative stronghold of Wisconsin. The 4th congressional district is a small part of Milwaukee County. It's a huge enough by population district to only take up a small percentage of Milwaukee County. And then the 1st congressional district is Racine, Kenosha, Walworth, Rock counties. This is actually Paul Ryan's former district. So really populated area, swing area of the state.
In one, you said?
Yeah, that's the 1st congressional district. Yep.
So one covers which ones? Oh, that's south. That's Racine and Kenosha, right?
Yep. And you're starting to see a lot of Illinois spill over into that district.
Yeah.
COVID sort of accelerated that. Illinois residents seeking asylum. And of course, why wouldn't they move to Wisconsin? Quality of life is better. Taxes are cheaper.
It's beautiful right in that neck. So this is really interesting. So we just went through the congressional districts. If you flip it and look at it by county, obviously Milwaukee has a ton of, so this is the number of precincts that we've identified that have a significant collection of votes that are outstanding, meaning people that did not vote in 2006 that were registered and we believe are Republican or Republican leaning, because Wisconsin does not have voter identification. So if you're listening to this in different states, most states have where you register with a party and whatnot. Wisconsin happens to be one of the minority states where you don't register by party. So it's kind of privacy, right? So people don't know what party you're in. It's actually a good thing because you get less election mail that way. It's a nice thing, but it also makes it more difficult to know who's who. In the extrapolated data, Milwaukee had more identified Republicans, the county that were out there, and obviously it's a massive county. It's huge. But right on its heels is Waukesha that you mentioned. But the interesting part is that the congressional district that covers the majority of Waukesha, or all of Waukesha, is really the most important congressional district with the number. So they just swapped, and they're really, really close. Milwaukee's 131, Waukesha is 102 in the county. And then you have Brown at 41, which is up north, Dane at 36, which is as we all know is UW-Madison, and then you have Washington and so on, and then Kenosha and Racine together are about the same size as about Dane. So you've got some really interesting data that's there, but that's starting to lay out the game plan for, okay, where are the most important places that we have to go? Where are the places that we have to run? We're really excited because next week we have 3 more full-time staffers that are managing volunteers. They're going to be managing events starting in Wisconsin. Brett, talk to us a little bit about the size of your team.
Yeah, we're really excited. We're going to be a team of 7 here in Wisconsin, now covering major swing areas like Racine, Waukesha, Kenosha, Walworth counties. So we're really excited to be bringing them on board to activate that next wave of conservative leadership that's going to be chasing the vote for us in high priority precincts. I would argue in Wisconsin, it's no longer a war of persuasion. It's a war of making sure that every single conservative and their mother comes out to vote, getting votes on the table in counties that we're used to racking the score up in, like Waukesha County, for instance, a county GOP that we have a fantastic relationship with, but needs to do better in a lot of different aspects. The data says that. And we're excited to help get Waukesha County to that threshold that it needs to be where the rest of the state can fall into place. I'll give you an example. So if the same amount of people who came out and voted for Ron Johnson would have came out and voted for Dan Kelly in our spring race, we obviously would have won that in a landslide. Waukesha County is a county you have to get 60% as a statewide candidate to at least have a chance statewide. Ron Johnson got 62, Dan Kelly got 58. This isn't a big deal when it's 1 or 2 counties, but when it's 10 or 12 counties that we're used to racking the score up in, this is where it becomes a problem. And having that added staff that Turning Point Action is bringing on here in Wisconsin is going to be that difference maker. Really excited about the next couple months.
Well, and this is, and you said something that's really important here, which is that we have to do better in Waukesha. And here's the thing. Terry Dietrich, who's the chair of Waukesha, is, I'm not saying this lightly, the best activist in the Republican Party, bar none, in the country. He's hated by the establishment because of his success. And this is usually what happens, right? What usually happens, and I know this because I was a county chair, that we were doing stuff, right? And I was hated, and I think it was because we were successful.
But by the right people. You were hated by consultants.
Yeah, by the McCain people,
the
consultants. But they hate it because they don't want to lose their position, right? So they almost don't want you to be successful at the county level, at the local level. And guys like Terry, like God bless him, these guys have, and it's not just Terry. Terry would be the first one to say it's the entire team that's there, the entire board, super conservative, and they've been working to win races up and down the ballot in Waukesha. But what ends up happening, and people don't realize this, is like the state party chair then hates you, and people at the national level hate you because they don't want you to become state party chair.
You're stealing all their thunder.
Yeah, you're stealing all their thunder. You're taking all of their, they don't want to give you credit. They want to take your credit. They don't want you to become chair and then control the funds and everything else.
Sounds like Rana.
This happens all the time. This is what happened with Robert Graham and co here, and
Jonathan Lyons,
and the entire McCain controlled mob and the Ducey controlled mob here. And it's like, nobody cares about that. We just want to win. We want to win at the local level. We want to win across the board. Mm-hmm. But, Brett said something that's really important because we just realized this week, and we're going to dive. This is why you have to keep coming back and listening to this, because for those of you that are going to be contributing in the places that we have to win next year, that's here, that's Wisconsin, that's Georgia, that's Nevada, that's Pennsylvania, that's Michigan. We realized in the data analysis just in the recent months that nobody's ever done before. I've never heard this. Nobody's looked at this, that the places that we have to win are not the places that we're focusing on. And so normally you would look at Terry and you'd be like, oh, Waukesha's great. They're winning up and down the board. But the reality is that we have to run up the board in those places even more because Waukesha has the most outstanding vote. That doesn't mean Terry's doing anything wrong. In fact, it's the opposite. We're glad. Thank goodness we have Terry that's there in Waukesha. But here's what I realized in Arizona. I thought, where we're sitting was pretty close to the most important place in the state of Arizona.
Yeah.
Thought that for years. The data that I was looking at was wrong because the data I was provided was wrong.
Right.
And once we analyzed this, we started to realize, where the most important parts in Arizona are?
The Republican areas.
The most Republican areas, like Waukesha and Wisconsin. So the same way that Waukesha, suburban, deep red, Milwaukee territory, right? In that outside of Milwaukee, you've got Mesa, Gilbert, Queen Creek, Surprise, and Peoria.
Anthem, Goodyear.
So it's basically a perfect ring around where it's like, actually, those places have the most opportunity for us. Mm-hmm. And by the way, it's going to be easier because it's way easier to knock on doors in those places. In Waukesha and be like, they're not going to be shocked that a Republican's knocking on their door because it's a Republican area, right? So it's like, I'm not offended that you're knocking, but where they do get offended?
Chandler.
All the places that the RNC is telling you to go, right? All the places that campaigns are focused on, which is great, by the way. campaigns should focus on the tough areas. They should do the tough work. But the even tougher work that everyone has ignored is chasing down those very low propensity ballots where they're actually not that hard to get those people to vote. You just got to show up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Waukesha County isn't even a blip on national pundits' radar right now. And, we've identified it as a top 5 county to win back the country. Terry Dietrich understands this. He's changing the game. When we talk about the 4 lanes of motivation, some people are only motivated by threats to their power. Terry is changing the landscape of how to win elections as we know it. Turning Point Action, we're going to be setting the bar and really drawing the roadmap to how you win. And I think that goes back to a lot of those conflicts you're seeing in states that we need to win, kind of that old guard establishment versus the new outside the box grassroots guys.
Yep, absolutely. Let's talk this in the presidential sphere here. Muslim leaders in swing states pledged to abandon Biden over his refusal to call for a ceasefire between obviously Hamas and Israel. This warning is that the risks losing support of community and states critical to his chances for re-election. So a really big Muslim population, Arab population, is in Michigan. What's one of the most important states we need to win the White House? I mean, that's not the top 3, but it's in the top 6, right? Michigan, that's a huge deal. The Democrats and Joe Biden have been all over the map on this issue. We're pro-Israel. No, we're not. We're pro-Hamas. No, we're not. They can't really figure out what they're doing, even though a large contingency of their voting bloc across the country is Muslim. Even though Muslims are traditionally very conservative, they still do vote Democrat in some of those blue areas. So this is interesting. A recent poll showed Biden's support among Arab Americans has plunged from a comfortable majority in 2020 to 17%. Dearborn is home to the highest concentration of Arab Americans in a state that is the highest number, 211,405, and the highest percentage of Americans at 2.1%. Biden won Michigan in 2020 by 2.8% of the vote. Arab Americans account for 5% of the vote, according to the Arab American Institute. In Wisconsin, there are 25,000 Muslim voters. Biden won by about 20,000 votes. In Arizona, where Biden won by about 10,500 votes, there are more than 25,000 Muslim voters, according to the U.S. Immigration Policy Center at the University of California, San Diego, said Phoenix pharmacist Hazim Nazareddin. So he's losing Muslim support in Arizona and Wisconsin. And he only won this state by, very small margins. It'll be interesting to see. I don't know how much of effect that's going to have, actually, if they change their mind. But what Tyler was just talking about was, even though Biden could probably lose, let's say 8,000 or 6,000 of those Arab votes in Arizona or Wisconsin, the left is already ballot chasing in those deep blue areas where we need to be in the red area. So he can't just take it for granted. It definitely hurts his chances at re-election in a small and a tight place like Arizona and Wisconsin are. But I don't know. I think it'll be a development in the next couple weeks that it's probably not going to matter. I think that come this time next year, I should take that back. 11 months from now, 10 months from now, it's just going to be who gets the most ballots in the ballot box. It won't really matter. So
that's all that matters. At the end of the day, it's going to be a race. Brett said it perfectly. This is less about. I don't want to misquote you here because it was such a good quote here, Brett, because it's going to be a great clip that we're going to clip later. We got to clip that later, producer Sadie. But it's not about it's not the art of persuasion that's going to determine the winner of Wisconsin next year and Arizona and Georgia. It's going to be the winner of who gets more bodies out in the field and talks to more low propensity voters and gets more of those people to vote on the spot.
100%. Yeah, it's no longer a war of persuasion. It's about getting out every single conservative and their mother out to vote in areas that we're used to racking the score up in, and we need to continue to do so.
Oh man, we had breaking news that just came out yesterday. The RNC is allowing. So this is like the debate that's been going on for the past 24 hours now. The RNC, and we'll bring in Courtney and we'll start talking about Georgia here. the RNC is allowing CNN to host debates next month.
Yeah. That's the state of the RNC.
Let me give you guys the background real quick on this. We can let's split screen. Let's bring in Brett and Courtney, and we can just talk about this for a real quick second. We can transition over to Courtney with Georgia. I think that's what we have up next, right?
No, yeah, but I mean, it all ties into Georgia because we're going to talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene and Rich McCormick too.
Yeah, that's next. So, so let's split screen and talk about this real quick. So we're hosting. So CNN is hosting 2 GOP presidential primary debates. Trump obviously is not participating.
Smart.
And this is the reason why he's not participating, guys. Because why is the GOP allowing CNN and NBC to host our debates? It is not okay.
Remember what Vivek said? He was like, do you think that they would have a Democrat debate with Tucker or Greg Gutfeld moderating it? No, not a chance. This is so stupid. This is idiocy.
Yeah, but this is the issue, okay? So the RNC pulled out of the debates commission. Okay, there was a nonprofit debates commission that existed that ran the debates, and they were left-leaning, right? So remember back in the presidential debates 4 years ago, and they attacked Trump, and they attacked, they went through the whole thing, and they attacked Pence, and everyone was like, this is disgusting. So the RNC did the right thing, and they said, we're going to pull out of the debates. And I applauded them. We applauded them. We were excited about it. And then what's happened? This thing has been a disaster. They didn't get Trump on board, right? Yeah, they didn't get Trump on board, which was insane. Like, how do you not get
monumental failure?
Why are you not? The guy's winning every poll at that point by like 30 points, 35 points at the time. It's like you're not catering to make sure that he's at the debates, which is what everybody wants to see. Number 2, then they start handing over the reins to NBC and making people sign pledges and da-da-da-da-da. And again, I'm not a big fan of the pledges, but they had all these people sign pledges to say, we will only get support of the RNC, we will only get support of the GOP if we only participate in RNC-sanctioned debates. So now we hear yesterday that CNN is hosting debates. So this is after NBC's hosted debates. So either one of two things happening, and I guess all of a sudden there's people like putting out memos like, oh, these aren't sanctioned RNC debates. Okay.
Yeah.
Someone's lying. So we know that the RNC was talking to CNN, right? So either these were CNN, coordinated debates with the RNC, or the RNC is not living up to its expectation on they signed the pledges, right, that they will only do RNC sanctioned debates. So either the RNC is weak and is rolled over, which that would not be surprising.
Yeah.
Or they had coordinated this whole plan with CNN in the background, which was also not surprising.
Right.
At this point. What a disaster. I don't know. Courtney, welcome. Welcome to Swing State Update. We're excited to have you on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think? What's your reaction to all this? I mean, what do you guys think? What do you think the grassroots activists are thinking right now in Georgia and Wisconsin about the RNC?
I think it's weakness. The Republicans never fight back, and that's what we need. And we're seeing that right now. They're giving in.
Yeah, I mean, all I would say at this point is that, CNN would be continuing their journey to split up the conservative vote. I mean, that to me, this doesn't sound like actual educating on candidates. It sounds like uniparty BS.
I personally, what do you think? What do you guys think? Do you think the RNC is lying about not sanctioning these things, and they we're quietly coordinating with CNN in the background?
Probably.
Or do you think that they're just so weak that now they're just become a doormat and like CNN is walking all over them?
Oh, easily. They're definitely getting walked all over. I mean, Ronna McDonough has
which
no
one
fight
is
in
it?
her.
Is it or is it both?
I think it's a mix of both. It has to be. It has to be. I mean, I've been around several years. I'm going on 8 years in this grassroots politics. I learned a lot from Tyler about how the national Republican apparatus operates. Obviously, our job at Turning Point Action every single day is to be involved with the grassroots recruit precinct committeemen. We really don't interact with the RNC because we're doing the job that they're supposed to. It just, I don't know their purpose in it. I mean, we know what their purpose is. This is not the purpose of the RNC, to do debates with CNN that runs hit pieces on Republicans all the time, that literally is going to lob questions attacking Donald Trump, splitting the party. And you have a state party chair, or not a state party chair, but you have an RNC chair that, you know, just they just don't care. I don't think they understand what time it is. They say that they do, but they don't. And this is where we are. This is why we get our butts kicked sometimes.
Well, and Tyler, I guess the question I would have with this is, do you think the RNC is more likely thinking that they're extending their reach or further splitting the conservative vote? What boat do you think they're in on this?
I don't think that they care about conservatives. Honestly, I think a lot of this is we had the RNC get in the middle of these debates, not know what they were doing, not lock down Trump, because it's very simple, guys. Like, this is simple. We know how Donald Trump works. We know how the president works, right? He wants things his way, okay? Like, have you been to Mar-a-Lago? Like, that place is pretty nice. Like, he wants it nice, and I appreciate that, and that's cool. He likes nice stuff, and he likes to...
It's not a bad thing.
He's winning by 50 points in the polls right now. Like, you kind of have to do what the guy that is winning by 50 points wants to do
but
sometimes.
It's like,
So-
I don't think they understand, like, the party loves Donald Trump. Like, and you're supposed to be...
He's up 50 points. He's like up 40 points
The
in
party
Florida.
loves Donald
for
Trump.
crying
I'm
out loud.
sorry, guys, but they love Donald Trump.
He's beating DeSantis by like 40 points in Florida in every poll. So it's like, guys, it's like you just kind of have to do what the guys that you want to make sure are there want to do, you know? And like, so if that means that Donald Trump doesn't want NBC to host the debate and he wants, you know, The Blaze or, you know, Turning Point or, you know, he wants, you know, Newsmax to host the debates and things like that. Like, why wouldn't you just do that?
Well, I think what's also interesting is they did this debate in Tuscaloosa trying to go after, like, young college voters. Donald Trump is leading with young Republican voters.
Guys, but
Like,
we're not
it's
trying to
even-
win Alabama,
I
okay?
know.
Like,
why are we doing it in Alabama? But it's young Republican voters overwhelmingly choose Donald Trump over the party.
think how cool this would have been. Think how cool this would have been. We just have, think about this. We have a border state, Arizona, that you got to win. Think about how cool it would have been to go do this debate, like, right in front of the border wall.
Yeah.
Like, outside, like, bring in people, like literally while people are, like, hopping the border in the
literally,
background.
while Lukeville, Arizona border is, like, shut down.
It
going
could
to
be
Rocky
like,
Point.
you know, remember like Street Fighter where they would do
Yeah.
like different levels and stuff like that, where stuff was happening in the background, like in our background, like people would be hopping the border, like, like, you know, things like that. It'd be so funny. It'd be so great.
But realistically, this is what's happening right now.
Reality TV.
Yeah, realistically, this is what's happening right now.
The best clips on the internet are Donald Trump in the boardroom on The Apprentice.
Yeah.
And that's like what people want to see in debates.
Right.
Right? Like people want that vibe. And so like everybody's just like, every time everyone turns on a debate, they're like, they're reminded how depressing it is that the RNC didn't get it done. And this is like the big point. This is the big point. Anytime that the RNC, this is running an organization in general. Anytime that you do something where you basically make promises and people show up and you let them down, they're not going to participate in the future. And the RNC promised that we were going to have awesome debates that weren't going to be run by corporate media shills that wanted to attack our candidates. They promised that all our candidates would show up, you know, that's why, again, you know, and there was the right move making Dave Bossie the chair, but like, how did you not get Trump? How did you not do this, right? How did you not get this to happen? You know, this is part of the reason why everybody was like, hey, Ronna should move on, because this is not getting the job done. The RNC has two basic functions. Hold a freaking convention, get the platform done, right? And do the debates.
Yep.
That's like really like the only thing that people recognize about the RNC. There's a bunch of other things the RNC does, but like those are the two perfunctory things that you're supposed to do really, really, really well. Right now, Ronna's not raising money for a great convention, and she's not hosting great debates.
Yeah.
Stupid.
Sounds about right. Let's talk Georgia a little bit more here before we transition out. Marjorie Taylor Greene claiming that a male Republican got physically aggressive with her, and they're saying that Republican is Rich McCormick. To give you guys some history, we didn't support Rich McCormick in the Republican primary. This last year, we supported Jake Evans, great guy. He would be a great congressman right now. But reporting that Marjorie Taylor Greene says that McCormick got physically aggressive with her. What do you think about that, Tyler? And Courtney too.
We should ask Courtney first.
What's going on in Georgia with Rich
give
McCormick?
us the rundown. And there's like some background info here. I don't know if I'm allowed to share and talk about.
Yeah, if it's the stuff I sent, yes. Do you want me to
tell us what's going on here?
Yeah, why don't you set this up and then we'll fill in the blanks along the way here. So by the way, MTG has been like, I've seen her CrossFit posts and stuff like that. She's bulking up.
Yeah.
So
I wouldn't be caught in the alley.
Courtney, give us the rundown. What's going on with MTG getting in a fight with McCormick?
Okay, so this all started with the Rashida Tlaib censor and having to do with like Rich McCormick wasn't going to support her. Tensions were high.
So let's set this up again. So this is the biggest no-brainer in the history of America to me, is censuring Rashida Tlaib over her commentary on Israel. Is that correct? Was that the portion of it?
Yes, the river to the sea or whatever.
Yes. So there. So Congress was going to censure, and then, again, guys, this is in the wake of them removing, the party boy from Long Island, right?
Yeah.
So this is the very fun Congressman, what's this, Santos. So MTG is doing the right thing here. I don't always agree with everything that MTG does, but like censuring Rashida Tlaib over her anti-Israel sentiments, this is like the biggest slam dunk for Republicans right now, is like, we should be doing stuff like this.
Yep.
So go ahead. Sorry, Courtney. But I just want to set that up.
So basically it had to do with that. Rich wasn't supporting it. He wanted to do his own thing. And so he went behind her and like put his hands on her shoulders, probably pretty aggressively. Just saying like, I don't know, I guess being a smart aleck,
So he aggressively, so what happened was, so MTG is trying to hold this thing. Rich McCormick's not going to support it. There's a big contingency of like moderate Republicans, and Rich McCormick, Dr. McCormick, I guess we should say, is Dr. Congressman McCormick, who, by the way, had some of his own struggles when he was running for Congress this last time around. Part of the reason why we didn't support him, but he has really been on the McCarthy bandwagon. So he's been buddy with McCarthy. We mentioned Jake Evans ran against him, got the Trump. Jake Evans got the Trump endorsement. Jake Evans was one of the few Trump endorsed candidates that did not win the primary. Very, very few. There's a very small margin. And we now know Georgia has a big Kemp influence. There's actually a really large anti-Trump strain that exists in Georgia. Let's just call it what it is. Like there's not a ton of love. I would actually argue Arizona loves Trump more. Wisconsin loves Trump more than Georgia.
I would agree with that.
Georgia does, which is weird. Because
it's a southern state.
How like MSNBC like portrays it is like the South like loves, Donald Trump. It's really not the case in some of these states. Like you have some pretty moderate states. Like Mississippi has pretty moderate governors. Governor, you've got Alabama is not great. You got Tennessee's not great in who they elect. Georgia's not great. So you actually have some pretty moderate Republicans that are down in the South that don't love Trump.
Nikki Haley, South Carolina.
Right? So Rich McCormick is not the Trump endorsed guy. Wins. Very, very few people that are like this in America that won. And he becomes like a McCarthy
acolyte.
Yeah, deacon. What a choir boy. Like he is the guy that's there that is like the standing behind McCarthy on everything, right?
Yep.
Down to him getting removed. So you have this like tension that's growing within. Marjorie is like really one of the few like pro out of the box Trump people in Georgia. And McCormick's really not. He's really like almost an anti-Trump guy.
Yeah.
Right.
He endorsed DeSantis.
So he's not on board. So a lot of these moderates are not on board for doing the things that should be done to attack back the left
Moderates
the same way that they
don't
attack us.
Yeah.
And so he's pulling off this thing. He goes up and grabs pretty abrasively MTG in public. And so now this is kind of where like this whole thing spewed out. But kind of the background on this, Courtney, give some background on like kind of where these guys are where's the breakdown here with all of that, and like who's who. We want to know like the who's who and what's what within Georgia. Like explain that.
So whenever Rich McCormick was running in the 7th district, Marjorie Taylor Greene did endorse him. And I don't know if y'all remember this, but back in 2022, he switched from running to the 7th to the 6th. And he carried over all of his, like all the people who had endorsed him for the 7th. He went ahead and acted like they were endorsing him for the 6th. And that made a lot of people mad at him because...
Yeah, so he ran and lost the previous election cycle in a different district. Redistricting happened. He got redistricted into a better district. And then he was using... This happens all the time, by the way, where people use their endorsements from previous elections and they just don't even go back and ask. And then that pisses everybody off. And so he did this, like, you know, again, against Jake Evans, who was Trump endorsed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pretty sad. Selfish.
So as far as I know, they haven't been, like, friends or anything. I mean, Rich is really into, like, Ukraine and that type of stuff. So he definitely is a little different than Marjorie.
That's for sure. We'll keep an eye on this. Let's talk a couple things, Tyler, before we outro out of here. TPAction.com/getyourscore. Obviously, you guys know about our scorecard. We talk about our scorecard all the time, where we rate our members of Congress if they're a patriot or a tyrant.
Well, that's a great transition, too, with McCormick, because you can go to, I believe you can just straight go to TPAction.com/Georgia or TPAction.com/GA. I think it pulls up the scorecard for Georgia. Yeah, so you immediately can go there. So if you go TPAction.com/score, TPAction.com/scorecard, or TPAction.com/ the abbreviation for your state, it's going to automatically pull up your scorecard. And this is a really great go-to because you can see right away how in real time your guys are doing, and it actually ranks them best to worst, but you can change it from worst to best. Our team has done a tremendous job. Flannery's done a tremendous job. You look at this. You look at Georgia. You got Mike Collins, Andrew Clyde, MTG doing pretty good up there. But, you know, it drops off pretty significantly. Rich McCormick his lifetime score is an 89. He's not the worst, not the best. But, you know, you've got guys like Austin Scott who are, really bad, really terrible. Really.
Go to tpaction.com/getyourscore. Take our scorecard test to see where you align with some members of Congress. I did it. Sadie should throw up the graphic there if you can, or the screenshot.
Yeah, and I want to explain this real quick. It's really cool. So if you go in and then you see the scores of everybody else that's in there, you can go to every state. You can see the lifetime scores. You can see the session scores in real time. We have everything.
We're 100s.
You can actually go in at the top, too, if you don't go to Get My Score. At the top, click on Get Your Score and follow your score along in the profiles, and then compare yourself to members of Congress.
I am closer to Eli Crane, Paul Gosar, and Andy Biggs. Shocker.
Yeah, and it'll tell you on there who you're close to.
Here, let's see if Sadie can throw my. Yep, that's who I'm similar to. Andy, Eli, Paul, Lauren Boebert.
Boebert.
Yep.
We're just gonna call you Austin Boebert.
Austin Boebert. I know Paul, I know Eli, I know Andy. Makes sense. We vote similar.
We have the best guys in Arizona.
We have more Freedom Caucus per capita than any other state. That's pretty cool.
Not even close.
That's how you know the grassroots is in charge here in Arizona.
Well, and that's where we want you to go on, too. And look, not everybody's 100%. That's fine. We have a lot of staffers that are here on our team that are 95s and 92s. Remember, you're only a Patriot if you're above 95, but that's fine. You can work on your stuff, but you can see again, Like I went into Utah. The best congressman in Utah this session's in 84.
Crazy.
That's unacceptable. That's terrible stuff. Courtney's 100. Brett's 100. Beautiful. Love to see it. But you can compare yourself again too to some of these other people, right?
In the Senate, I'm aligned with Eric Schmidt, J.D. Vance, Mike Lee, Marsha Blackburn, Rick Scott, and Rand Paul. Those are my guys.
This thing is beautiful too, because if you go on it and you look at it, it gives a banner. It tells you if you're a patriot, if you're a tyrant, if they're a tyrant, and then you can see their actual score. So you can actually go down, sort all their votes, view all their votes, sort all their votes by category, and it tells you the Turning Point Action position versus their position. You can click on the vote. You can see if it's a key vote or not, and you can see how everyone in Congress voted right there. It's the best resource that exists in the conservative movement.
It's awesome. We have the best scorecard in the country.
It's the best, and again, that's huge credit to Flannery, our entire team that's there. We have our entire scorecard team. We're launching scorecards for state scorecards this year.
It's very exciting.
So we're going to be doing that with the key target states first, so Arizona, Wisconsin, Georgia, and then incorporating those into scores as well. So, Austin, we're expecting you as a state representative to be 100.
I will be 100. If not, then I have to resign.
The cool part about this is like, if Austin sucks, you're going to know.
Exactly. You better vote right.
We're going to tell them.
Yep.
So.
Let's talk, before we get out of here, let's talk AmFest. Brett, you're coming to America Fest.
Super excited. Yeah. Stellar lineup of speakers, standout slate of breakout sessions. This is a can't miss event. This is conservative Disneyland, as I like to call it. You got to be at America Fest if you haven't gotten your ticket yet already. Very excited to come out to Arizona next week. It's
so much fun. Turning Point Action. We're going to have a whole day dedicated just to Turning Point Action. Vivek Ramaswamy, Donald Trump Jr., Marjorie Taylor Greene. It's going to be very exciting. I'm looking forward to it. It's the best event of the year. So happy that Turning Point Action has now taken a huge role in America Fest here in Arizona. You need to go to tpaction.com/AmFest. We got some great people. Bannon, Kimberly Guilfoyle, Josh Hawley, one of my favorite senators, Matt Gaetz. It's going to be really exciting. On the Turning Point USA side, obviously Charlie Kirk. Tucker's going to be there, Roseanne Barr, Glenn Beck, Dinesh D'Souza, Jack Poso, Benny Johnson, Allie Beth Stuckey. A great lineup. We're going to have exceptional fun breakouts. Turning Point Action is going to be doing some breakouts, some very important things, equipping grassroots activists. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's one of my favorite events, is my favorite conservative event of the year. tpaction.com/AmFest, or just go to amfest.com and register there. Tyler, closing comments, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, right now is the time for everybody to start getting involved. I'm so grateful. We got some exciting stuff coming up right now. And Austin is taking on a new role, actually, with Turning Point Action, running all of our grassroots operations, specifically for our ballot chasing. And so on our field side, which is huge. I know Brett's going to miss working with him on the exact day-to-day with that stuff, but we are hiring over hundreds of people. I'm not going to say the exact amount because we're not going to put that out there for the left so that they match us. But we are hiring hundreds of people in Arizona, hundreds of people in Wisconsin, hundreds of people in Georgia. And that's all dependent upon how many people support us and support the people, the bodies, the full-time bodies that the conservative movement absolutely needs in order to win.
tpaction.com/careers. Go right now.
tpaction.com/careers. We'll have jobs posting right away. I actually think we have some new jobs about chasing up today.
They're up.
And then in addition to that, we if you go to tpaction.com/chase or tpaction.com/chase the vote, you can sign up and say, hey, maybe you can't, leave your full-time job. Maybe you are at home with children. Maybe you're in a different state than where we need you. But if you sign up there, then we're going to be able to communicate with you and plan for you to come out. Maybe you can come out for a week next year. Maybe you can come out next October for a weekend.
Right.
Maybe you can go to Wisconsin for 2 weeks. Wisconsin in October is beautiful. It's
beautiful in Arizona.
It's gonna be beautiful.
You can wear shorts.
Arizona, it depends. It might be beautiful. It might be still a little bit.
If it's still warm, you can still wear shorts and chase ballots.
Well, yeah,
it's beautiful.
You can wear Daisy Dukes if you want while you chase ballots. I don't know if you're gonna get more ballots out of people, but tank tops and bandanas. We'll take that. That might fly in Georgia, actually.
Yeah.
The Daisy Dukes saved this for Georgia. But
tanks fly in Arizona too. You can wear your tank.
You can wear your tank in Arizona. Tanks in Arizona. You can just be a normal person in Wisconsin because it's beautiful in October. But this is going to be the most important thing is plan ahead now. We're coming up on Christmas. You're going to start planning out your annual vacation time. Don't use all that vacation time in spring and summertime next year, folks. I'm telling you right now, if we can get 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 extra people into Arizona, Wisconsin, Georgia, I'm telling you right now, full-time people, 1,000 full-time people, you can chase ballots. You can help chase 10 ballots per day and win this election.
It's a big deal.
That is what we're going to ask you to do. We are going to work on that with you. So,
TPAction.com/get involved. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, Courtney. Thanks, Brett.
Thank you guys for having me.
God bless you.